Hey, it's Chris. Liege Games. Let's talk games you need to know. Kickstarter coming in June 2021. And again, like I've done in the past, I'm going to highlight ones that are of the biggest note and of the most interest to me, and consequently, hopefully, they're of interest to you. Give you a little synopsis, let you know a few of my thoughts, and just tell you a little bit about why I'm excited about them and why maybe you should be too, all wrapped up in one. Hopefully, don't ramble too much in this video, but let's go right into it. Let's take a look. Now, first up, this one is Soul Raiders. I've had this on a couple other lists earlier in the year, and they've sort of been a little bit coy about when it's going to be launching. It was originally scheduled to launch in Q2 of 2021. Well, folks, we're getting to the end of Q2 in 2021. So if it's going to launch, it's going to launch in June. And that's why I'm excited by it. Now, is it actually going to launch, though? I don't know, but that's why I'm sort of throwing it in here at the beginning, sort of as an honorable mention. This is a story-driven cooperative game where you are this mage warrior joining this warrior's order of soul raiders, where you are defending, you are defeating, you are keeping souls in their place in the realm, but you are also going up against some big bad. So, this is by Marc Andre. You may know him from the person who did Splendor. Now, those two things, this heavy cooperative, story-driven, dungeon crawl-esque themed game and Splendor, right? Not the biggest overlap. However, hear me out. This is epic narrative. Fast-paced game, combat, everything in between. You act simultaneously with your surroundings as a cooperative game. It is not one person taking their turn, another person taking their turn, another person taking their turn. You all can act separately, equally. You can head off in your own directions at the same time as someone else doing additional actions in a different way. It focuses on the action, but you can have several scenes in several areas, in several characters, all going at the same time. So you can all do your own thing, or you can stay together depending on what you prefer, when you prefer it. Okay, Chris, that's great, whatever. Oh, did I mention the fact that there's a common health pool? So if somebody else takes a ton of damage, your character has less health to deal with too? Intrigued? You should be. Now, here's the other caveat. If you cooperate efficiently, it says that you can get to the end of the chapter. However, there is not one way in order to do so, which means that you could do it in a multitude of ways, sort of like a sandbox-esque mode. Non-linear, 1,000 plus different illustrated cards. Card-driven. Really liking the sound of this one. You can see why I'm excited now. You can see just with the glance of some of this art that it's tremendous. And you can see that the combat is relatively straightforward. The cards are easy to read, easy to tell what's going on as well. Now, it does appear that they're going to have some miniatures. So what are the price points going to be? Is it going to be worth getting the standees? Is it going to be worth to waiting off of Kickstarter? What is going to be the incentive of getting on a Kickstarter? I don't know. But this is probably one of my most hyped games in the next month or two, hopefully, when it launches. Because of the card-driven story, tactical combat nature, and heavy co-op, but also allowing you to split off and do your own things. So you're not stuck with the same party all the time doing the same things at somebody else's whim. So that is why it's the honorable mention at the beginning of this video. Soul Raiders. You can go here. It's got a pre-launch page. It's got almost 4,000 followers on the pre-launch page as well. So I'm not the only one talking about it and interested in it in the first place. So there you go. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Next up, Gaijin. Cyberpunk, adventure, post-apocalyptic, head-to-head, steampunk-esque game with two different settings, both neural network, sort of internet, sort of, wireless side of things in the computers, but then also the physical representation done through scenario-driven gameplay. Now, again, no firm date. I guess Board Game Co. said a couple months ago, like a month or two ago, that it was going to be launching in June. I guess he got some information from GameFound. I have heard nothing from them, so I can't confirm nor deny, but he knows better than me in almost every situation. So I trust him when that is the news that he's gotten. And it's Awaken Realms Light. And so I've talked about this one before. It's still going to show up on all of the lists because I'm so intrigued by it, because I'm so interested in what Awaken Realms does. Now, this is clearly going to be the heaviest game that Awaken Realms Light has put out. So how is it going to compare to an actual, Awaken Realms game? Is it going to be lighter than those games? Is it going to be akin to some of those? Is it going to be a mishmash blending of that depth? But I mean, look at the stuff you can do. Body modifications, earning reputation, high replayability because of the potential strategies that you can do, whether or not you want to co-op with people to achieve a common goal, but then backstab them, or just you want to go head to head and smash it out. So the art is great. But that's it. That's it. This is the end of the page right here. That's all we know. There's no Board Game Geek page. And I'm just really wanting to see more information out there. So GameFound, if you're watching this, Awaken Realms, if you're watching this, send me some more info. I'd be sure to throw it in a video. But until then, hopefully it launches in June so we can see what it's all about. You know what? We might as well stay on GameFound because whether or not you like it, no matter what you feel about The Witcher or the Rainbow Six one, in between is going to be the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. And we're going to see what it's going to be. Now, again, this is an interesting choice, as was The Witcher. The Witcher having now all modes, solo, cooperative, and competitive, but this is a cooperative where everyone thought Witcher was going to be cooperative, and it is more competitive. This one is cooperative, where I would have thought initially, because this is a solo game, you could all sort of do your own thing. I thought you go head to head in that manner. So they sort of flipped the script on us in those issues, but now Witcher is being obviously relatively well received. So is Elder Scrolls Skyrim going to get the similar treatment? I mean, you're going to have just as much eyes on it, even though you only have 11,000 compared to like the 40,000 or so that were on The Witcher, partially probably because this page isn't easy to find. You have to go looking for it. It's not like you can just randomly surf Kickstarter or find it a lot easier. This is sort of flown under the radar. Modiphius is going to be, under a lot of scrutiny with this. And again, there's not any information whatsoever, but this is supposed to launch, as far as I know, in June. What are we going to see? How is it going to appeal? I have no idea whatsoever. I'm surprised we haven't seen anything more because the Rainbow Six game has a Facebook group and they've been putting out more and more info. So I'm surprised I haven't seen this. But if I find anything else more, I'll let you know too. But it's going to rake in the cache. It's just going to see whether or not it's for you and what it looks like as the final product, because we know next to nothing about it. Look, I just mentioned these next two over the weekend in my upcoming video because I believe two of the best games in June are going to be launching on the first, at least of personal interest potentially for me. First one up is Fall of the Mountain King. This is the sequel/prequel standalone game to In the Hall of the Mountain King, where you are now instead trying to fend off in an ultimately losing battle against the gnomes that are invading. And you are doing it through a series of action-controlled rounds with multiple layers of mechanisms, a little bit of worker placement, a lot of tile placement in terms of figuring out your actions and how many actions you have. It's going to be a hit. It's just going to be a question of who it actually appeals to, because as I've said previously already now twice, check out my full video for the full mechanics that are out there. Is this going to appeal to the same crowd? I don't know, because it is a distinctly different game than In the Hall of the Mountain King. You need to be aware of that going into it. Also, the question is, with all of these, but this one especially, because it's going to be miniature based, it's going to be a little bit deluxified, and the price point is going to be up. And what has Kickstarter done over the last year or so? Inflation, inflation, inflation. So I'm worried that this is going to be a triple-digit price for the deluxe edition. Now, I'm not going to say it's not worth it, but it's going to make people like me who are maybe on the fence a little bit more hesitant, because especially with all of these other things I've mentioned and I'm yet to mention, and we all know that there's a couple surprises that always surprise us that we want to back as well. What is going to happen, and how are you going to decide between some of these? And so double digit versus triple digit sometimes is the make it or break it. Now, I think it's unique. I think it's very different than anything I've played. I say that also as a person who's not like area control, that I am intrigued and I'm very interested, and I'm going to watch it, and I'm potentially going to be backing on day one if all of those boxes are checked for me. The asymmetric powers, the placing your workers, the control style of how you're putting them down and how you're maneuvering them and how you're trying to sort of maneuver within the clans, but also do the sort of Champions of Midgard Valhalla rush where you're also getting benefited if your guys get killed by the onslaught of gnomes, so you're trying to time that and space that appropriately. It's got a lot of good stuff going on. Again, just the question though is it for you? I will be completely honest. I was not even having this one on my radar as a game I was interested in until I got to play it. So I think you should check it out if you're like me at all, and if you like some of the same stuff that I do on the channel. That is Fall of the Mountain King, June 1. Also on June 1, Adventure Tactics, Adventures in Alchemy. This is the expansion, the add-on to the original Adventure Tactics. And if you're not familiar with this, don't let the cartoony-esque vibe of the art throw you off. This is probably the closest thing to the warm embrace of Final Fantasy Tactics in a board game, which people have been trying to duplicate, but have not been terribly successful until really this has come along. And this has been the best representation of that because of the ability to level up your characters, single them out in terms of the variety of classes that you can go into, because of how you want to match the different style of play, or even the different customizations of, types of fighter versus mage. It gives you just a vast plethora of asymmetry, and people are really liking it. Dice Tower gave it its seal of excellence. So this is a very solid game. It's good for families. It's just good enough probably as well, especially at the harder difficulties, for gaming groups. It's got a little bit of the hex-based dungeon crawl, and it looks like it's more than just a slog. You're actually having to make decisions, because not only is it just kill stuff, it's also quests. So you're gonna have to choose sometimes what you want to do or how you want to approach it. And this is just adding more goodness. This is allowing you to have a mini campaign to go straight into the second tower, or you can play this with carryover from the first tower, it appears, as well. This is just adding more of a good thing. More classes, more items, more weapons, more people, just everything good about that. The big question for me, though, is going to be, I did not back the first one on Kickstarter. I kind of regret, I kind of don't, because they didn't really offer any Kickstarter exclusives, and it is slightly less at retail now if you can get free shipping on it, depending on how big your order is, because the only Kickstarter exclusives were the side quests, and as much as I wanted them, it wasn't like an extra $20 or $25 at least for me personally that I was probably going to pay. So I hope that they incentivize. I mean, I'm not saying that they need to like throw out a bunch of Kickstarter exclusives, but I hope that they do this. Again, here you can see a setup of what the game looks like. So it's nothing fancy on the table, but that's not where it matters, right? You want design, you want gameplay over eye candy. And that is what this game gives. And that's what it allows. Anywhere from 1 to 5 players. I can play it with my kids. I can play it with my game group. I'm a big fan. It's straightforward. It's easy to get to the table, but it's still giving you those optimal choices that you're wanting and that you're desiring. So when it launches on June 1, expect it to have a lot of eyes, especially given the relatively lower funding of the first campaign. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes much, much better in terms of funding the second time around. I hope it does personally, because I'm going to be rooting for them. But that is Adventure Tactics, Adventures in Alchemy. Next up, launching on June 8, is Deliverance. And this is post sort of Christian mythological lore with angels and demons fighting, trying to rid the world of the demon presence. This is a dungeon crawl with an angel devil heavy theme, strong AI, strong cooperative play, asymmetry in the powers and the abilities, but also the AI and the combat being very different each time you play it through, with also multiple levels of difficulty that are going to be available. They are also saying on the Facebook group that they're going to be offering, for those with the extra cash, even the option of pre-painted miniatures if you're willing to shell some out. Now, obviously, they're doing it sort of like as a splurge, sort of throw around your free cash, but if you're really interested in something like that, you should check it out. The gameplay appears very solid. They've been testing it over Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia, I think, for quite some time now. So it has also seen a lot of traction. This is not something that is not being tested by outside of the focus group. So it's really got a strong backing already. It's already got over 1,000 people following it on the Kickstarter preview page. And there's already some thoughts on why people are interested in backing it, because of the gameplay, because of the nuances, because of the differences than a lot of the other dungeon crawlers out there. And I think it's been in development for a while. Andrew Lowen is the designer, and we're going to see how it actually does when it launches. I'm actually supposed to be getting a copy here in a couple days, and so I'm going to be trying out. He wants some video on the hard mode, so I am preparing to get my butt kicked by this game so that I can give you guys my thoughts on it and my experiences on it. So I am excited by this one, but I think it's also going to be one of those potentially under the radar sort of sleeper hits. So I want to throw it out there because I think it looks good from a gameplay standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, and I think you guys would like it if you like, again, similar stuff to what I do. So that's why I'm mentioning it. We'll go back down to the other end of the spectrum, launching at the end of the month. This is the Millennium War, and this is a co-op, a head-to-head, a solo game in the scheme of a MOBA, but also a la the Kingdom Death style, where you are fighting also the possibility of a main boss and progressing through the AI deck and the systems like that with high amount of asymmetric characters. I have a copy. I'm waiting to get it played. I'm trying to find one of my friends to take some time with me to play it so I can, again, give you my thoughts. My unboxing was earlier this month, and it's just got to hit the table like a lot of this other stuff. So I'm excited to see what this is going to actually play like. Like, I'm not a huge MOBA person, but I think it's offering a few things in terms of the MOBA as well as the boss battling that we maybe haven't seen in terms of the nuances. And so I really want to get it to the table so I can tell you firsthand how it compares to some of those others in both of those genres. The art is fantastic. The thing you need to know, though, as I saw with the unboxing, if you didn't see that yet, is that the miniatures are not pre-assembled. So again, that's going to be a turn off for some, turn on for some. Now they are doing standees as well, so you're getting a little bit of everything. They have these very unique counters and dials in terms of keeping track of your character's health. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. It's going to be one to watch because, again, they have a higher funding goal. And so what's going to happen with that? Is it going to be too high? Is it going to be too low? Is it going to be just right? It's flying under the radar. You're not seeing it necessarily talked about by other channels. So I don't really know what's going to happen. It could go either way, but I think it's worth having eyes on it again as something that's very interesting and out there and just, something I would be interested in regardless. So that is Millennium War, launching on June 29. Last up, if you're familiar with this, Valor and Villainy, Minions of Mordok. Now, I'm not talking about this specifically, but I'm talking about this, Valor and Villainy, Lludwik's Labyrinth. They are launching a new standalone expansion for this 1 to 6 player zany RPG-esque, dungeon crawl-esque sort of 1v all game, and they are just adding more. It's going to be deluxe. It's going to match the first time around. Now, they say in this game, this is actually going to be 1 to 6 players as opposed to 2 to 5. It's going to be cross-compatible with the first one, but it's going to offer more of a cooperative experience as opposed to just a head-to-head bad guy versus good guys trying to find objective, bad guy trying to thwart them by throwing traps, bad guys, and everything else along the way. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be following this evil mad Lludwik into his magical labyrinth. He's going to be setting traps and snares for you in this cooperative adventure. You're going to be trying to snag him and stop him from unleashing the demons on the land and destroying everything. So those are the games that I think should be on your radar in June. That's a bunch in a little bit of time. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there. There's going to be tons of other games as well. You can be riding alongside me, following along as I go through all of them with my roundups and my upcomings. If you want to subscribe and throw me a little click there. As always, just let me know what you're interested in. Let me know what you want to hear. Let me know what you want to see. If I missed anything, let me know. If you are interested in hearing about anything else that I did not talk about, let me know. So, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with me. Hope this was interesting. Hope I threw a few things on your radar that you didn't know about. Have a great day. Stay classy. See you around.